Hello classmates, Ty Harrison here from Central Texas, and our discussion board Form 2, Module 4, has us taking a look at a couple of pilots that are encountering some weather. They're on a long cross-country flight. They're encountering some bad weather. They can't get through on the frequency because it's congested, flights are getting rerouted and such, and so they want to find out what's going on, and so they can make some sound decisions of what they need to do. Can they proceed? Do they need to divert? What do they need to do? They need to look at the weather. So the Garmin 1000 is gonna help them do that. And let me just preface this by saying that, as I've said before, I haven't used the Garmin 1000 in real life, so that's why I'm in this class and learning about it. So there's probably more things with the weather that it will do, and might do it easier or differently. Who knows? But so I'm having to rely on what I'm learning with the King videos, which are of course very helpful. So very first thing is that the Garmin 1000 is going to have a wind and a temperature, outside air temperature indication, and that's always going to give us a big picture of what's happening. If we see some big changes in those things, we know that from just studying some weather theory. But these guys already know what's going on, that something bad is out there. So anyway, this is just information for them. And there is what the Garmin 1000 is going to provide to these pilots is going to depend on the subscription that they have with XM Weather. So let's assume that they have a good subscription with XM Weather. So they are going to have access, of course, to the XM Weather data link satellite. So from the default map page, they can use the little FMS button and move over to the weather map page. And again, depending on the subscription, there's 12 plus or so features in the XM Weather. Again, depending on the subscription. And when they get to that page, there'll be a row of soft keys across the bottom that will provide various pieces of information. We'll get to that in just a second. So, some knobology points. The range key is, when they move that around in these different pages, is going to zoom things in and out. And then, of course, don't forget that on the range key, you can push it and turn it or move it around, and you can move the cursor around like that. So that'll be useful for them to, again, zoom in and out to look at things, or to move a cursor specifically where they want it to go to look at specific things. Okay, so talking about the soft keys across the bottom, but it's the bottom left. There's the NEXRAD key. That's Next Generation Radar, National Weather Service Doppler Radar. It's going to show you precipitation intensities, rain, snow, and ice. Don't know what these guys are encountering, but one of these things possibly. And there's also on these different functionalities, there's a section on the top right that it says age. So you're going to be able to tell the age of any of this information as well. So remember too that this particular section right here, and all of them really, help you to avoid the weather. The functionality is not to get you in the weather and then circumnavigate once you're in the mix. So and this NEXRAD shows, when I say precipitation only, remember it's not going to show you a cloud. So if these guys are VFR pilots, they could easily be flying right into some instrument conditions if they're trying to rely on this. So one other thing about that particular section as well is that if you use that on the default map page, it's going to replace the terrain features. It's not going to show both at the same time. You can either look at the terrain on the default map page, or you can look at this NEXRAD weather, one or the others, because the colors are similar and they're not going to show you both. Okay, again, across the bottom, the soft keys, you've got a lightning soft key, gives you cloud to ground lightning strikes with little pluses. It's got a SIGMET and AirMET section on it, a soft key that gives you a graphical representation of SIGMETs and AirMETs. It's got a METAR soft key, so any reporting station, it's going to bring up all the reporting stations based on your zoom level. And so it's going to give you METAR information. There's a legend page that's going to provide a legend for anything that you're looking at. And it's got a more weather function, soft key. If you press that, it's going to bring up some different additional soft key. You've got a wind soft key. It's going to list across the bottom 3, 6, 9, 12, and so on. If you push that, it's going to bring up wind barbs for that particular altitude that you want to look at. So these guys already have a lot of information that they can immediately go to and have this come back to them. Now, what they can do also is, if they have a flight plan in place, they can bring up the flight plan, use the scroll key to highlight an airport in their flight plan, destination, or something along their route of flight. And then when they do that and they enter that, it's going to bring up the airport information first, but there's also going to be a weather key across the bottom where they can push that, and it's going to bring up the METAR and the TAF, depending on what that reporting station may have. So that's something great about if they have a flight plan. Now, if they also want, say there's an airport along the route before their destination that's not in their flight plan, they can use the range key from the default map page, use that range key, make it into a cursor, or make it into a pointer, move it over an airport, enter that. That will come up, and they can do the same kind of process with the weather key at the bottom, and it'll bring up that weather information for that station. So a couple of ways that you can find information from your flight plan, or by using the pointer functionality. The Kings also go on to say checking weather at any place in the country, but with these two guys, what they're wanting is that weather along their route of flight. But they may have to go, if they're going to divert, and they need to divert significantly, they may use that functionality. With that functionality, you go to the waypoint page and you type in, whatever the airport you're looking at somewhere that you're trying to go. And again, going through that same process, once you bring that up, you can push that weather key, and it's going to bring up that METAR and TAF information. So a lot of different things at the disposal of these two pilots that appear very intuitive of how they can get to it, and then they can make a sound decision on, can they proceed? Do they need to divert? Do they need to go on an alternate? What is it that they need to do? But they can certainly get a wealth of information with just what I described right here. And anyway, that takes care of the information that I have. Appreciate your comments. Thank you very much. See you.